Vladimir Putin has never been known for his morals and ethics. This is a man who uses Soviet-era nerve poisons to dispose of political rivals, after all. But after using illegal cluster bombs and at least 18 verified attacks on healthcare facilities, workers, and ambulances as of yesterday, just how likely is he to find himself summoned to the International Criminal Court? Our next guest is one of the world's foremost experts in international law and human rights abuses, and is here to walk us through what's involved getting a war criminal to The Hague. Professor Irwin Cotler joins us, International Chair of the Raoul Wallenberg Center for Human Rights. Mr. Cotler, thanks for coming on the show.
Good speaking with you.
I really wanted to talk to you about this. And first things first, I know you could probably answer this question with one word, yes, but I'd like to ask you, is Vladimir Putin, is Russia committing war crimes right now?
They're committing a series of war crimes. The first has been the unprovoked, unjustified act of aggression targeting Ukraine's independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. It's not appreciated that this itself is now a war crime under the International Criminal Court as of 2018. Secondly, they're committing a series of crimes against humanity defined as widespread and systematic assaults on civilians as a matter of state policy. And finally, what they are doing, and what you referenced, qualify also as war crimes. Growing assaults on civilians, on civilian sites, on schools, on orphanages, on hospitals, and the like. So, in effect, we have here a series of the worst of war crimes, and Nuremberg referred to the crime of aggression as being the supreme evil.
And Professor Cotler, for our listeners here, I want to make it clear that we have international agreements. We have signed agreements with countries just on the rules of war, just on these types of things, correct?
Correct. I mean, we have now a statute for an international criminal court, which Canada played an important role in, and I'm delighted that some 39 states have referred Russia's criminality to the International Criminal Court, and that the special prosecutor for the ICC, Karen Kame, has already opened an investigation. And that's not the only one. We've got a process now before the International Court of Justice in the form of an interstate complaint. We have proceedings before the European Court on Human Rights. So we have now a series of international juridical initiatives that have been taken and not as well acknowledged as they might be. But this is, I think, almost unprecedented in the manner in which the international legal community is being mobilized to hold Putin and his associates accountable.
We're with Irwin Cotler, International Chair of the Raoul Wallenberg Center for Human Rights. Mr. Cotler, when you see the images coming out of Ukraine, what are your emotions? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, these are horrific images. When Putin bombs a hospital, when he bombs a maternity ward, when children are being murdered amidst the rubble, when you have 2 million refugees, the fastest exodus of refugees ever since the end of the Second World War from a European country, just in 2 weeks already 2 million. And each refugee is yet another story, another tale of experienced horror, human suffering, and state-orchestrated by Putin, state-orchestrated human suffering. We should also not ignore that within Russia, there have been reports of not only massive detention of Russians protesting against the war, but in fact the torture of these protesters. So you have crimes against humanity being committed within Russia at the same time as you have the massive crimes against humanity that are being committed in the Ukraine.
With the crimes against humanity, with the war crimes, what should be done by the international community to stop Vladimir Putin?
Well, I think the international community has sought to engage. Unfortunately, we incentivized a lot of this by doing nothing when Putin went into Chechnya, when he then invaded Georgia, when he then annexed Crimea, when he then engaged in brutal atrocities in Syria over a 7-year period. So it was our incentivizing of Putin through a culture of impunity, of not holding him accountable, that led him to feel enabled that he could get away with this. So I'm glad finally the international community woke up. But what is still needed, apart from the juridical initiatives, is military assistance to the brave Ukrainian people, is humanitarian assistance, is intensified sanctions. It's a broad-based political, humanitarian, legal, economic coming together of the international community to hold Putin accountable and put him into docket of the accused.
Realistically, do you see Vladimir Putin being charged as a war criminal?
I think that at this point, the fact that 39 states, unprecedented, referred the matter to the International Criminal Court. We've never had anything like that. The only precedent we ever had was when 7 states led by Canada did so with regard to Venezuela. We now have 39 states that have done so. And I think that, yes, I think the world is appreciating now that what we have in our midst is a person engaged in acts of aggression, war crimes, crimes against humanity of the most brutal kind, and he must be held accountable along with those conspiring with him for this purpose.
What would have to happen to hold him accountable, to actually bring him to The Hague?
Well, what would have to be the prosecution would come to a determination that, in fact, there are reasonable grounds to believe that these war crimes, as I've described them, are being committed, that arrest warrants would be issued, and Putin would be effectively isolated within the Kremlin, because if he left the Kremlin, he would be served with an arrest warrant. And so I think at this point, this type of internationalization of the criminalization of his behavior is something that will hold him accountable, beginning with holding him isolated, and ultimately, I believe, holding him criminally responsible.
Mr. Cotler, from your role as the international chair of the Raoul Wallenberg Center for Human Rights, what responsibility does the West, NATO, the world have right now in a military response to stop the atrocities happening in Ukraine?
Well, I do think that the West must defend the Ukraine, must provide them at least with the weapons necessary to protect themselves, must provide them with anti-tank missiles, anti-aircraft missiles, with planes. They must provide them with the material necessary. And I do think also, I know there's been some hesitation in considering this, that the West and the international community should consider a no-fly zone over Ukraine, because this type of incessant, indiscriminate bombing, targeting innocent civilians must be held accountable and must be put to an end.
Professor Irwin Cotler is international chair of the Raoul Wallenberg Center for Human Rights. Thank you for taking the time. You were the person I wanted to talk to about this, and it's a pleasure talking to you again.
Good speaking with you, and let's hope that we'll start to hear better news coming out on the protection of people, refugees, and the like.